We continue with our segment here, Coping with COVID, and this segment is brought to you by the National Gas Company of Trinidad and Tobago Limited. This is Coping with COVID.
Coping with COVID-19, brought to you by NGC, at the forefront of energy.
Coping with COVID, a series brought to you by National Gas Company Limited, and today we continue the conversation with regard to education. We have on the line lecturers now, Michael Sherry, who is assistant professor at the Academy for Performing Arts, UTT, Fiona Rajkumar, educator with regard to homeschooling, that's very interesting, and Deborah De La Rosa, standard 4 teacher at Bishop Anstey Junior School. Good morning, everyone.
Hi, good morning.
Okay,
Good morning, Lisa.
Well,
Morning.
I want to start off by saying, first of all, how challenging or not was it really to convert to online classes given the current scenario, and perhaps with not a lot of notice, or were any of you prepared to go immediately online or switch to online education? I want to start with you, Michael.
Okay. Hi, morning, Lisa. Well, I mean, the thing is, I mean, this is this is probably the biggest thing, the biggest, world event that's directly affecting our students that our students are going to experience probably in their lifetime. I mean, UTT always had Canvas. Canvas, which is an online learning management system. It's kind of like it's kind of like a Facebook for education, but I mean, it's much more complex than that.
Mm-hmm.
And we always had Zoom, and we always had something called Media Site, which is like a kind of.
But did you use it? But were you guys using it, or was it more face to face? Because I know you teach more.
It was more, it was more face to face, and the nature of like what I teach, which is theater, theater acting, performance. You need that, that live engagement, that very physical engagement. So to switch to Zoom, I mean, like I said, we always had it, but it wasn't really that much utilized. But now we're like forced to utilize it. So we had to find out things like student situation, whether they had the technology, the devices, the bandwidth, for video.
Yes.
And really we had to do like a lot more preparation, a lot more adjustment,
Yeah.
What
about
less
you?
lectures. I mean, lectures are hard enough for students anyway. So with the Zoom interaction, we had to it had to be more of like discussions.
Yeah.
More discussions, use of videos, sometimes maybe record the lectures and play it. I mean, not like too long lectures, like 5-minute kind of stuff,
Yeah, so we had a student on
feedback,
we had a student on Michael, we had a student on from NYU, Abu Dhabi in New York, and she was saying that they're doing drama as well, and it sort of went from the practical to a little more theoretical, which wasn't very welcoming for the student, actually. But I want to go across to Deborah De La Rosa, Bishop's Anstey Junior School.
Yes.
What has been your experience?
Well, at Bishop Anstey, we were not foreign to the use of technology because we have to include technology in our lesson planning. So we have been exposed to it, but it was literally like overnight we were thrown into it. We were told, given the order to stay home that the first week on the 13th, and we were up and running by the 16th. So it was literally an overnight change we had to make. And we have to thank our parents, Mr. Reason and Mr. Green, for that.
Yeah.
But it was literally a weekend training, back-to-back training to get online and to know how to organize yourself, to now move from face to face hugging the children and whatnot to this remote teaching.
Yeah.
But we were able to do it. And as Michael was saying, he's working with tertiary level. I'm working with primary school children. So it was, and it still is, a task. But I am truly amazed risen to the occasion.
So is your
Actually, we are
classroom
operating in their realm.
is your class an interactive one with webcam where you can actually see the students and they can interact with you real time? Is that how it happens in
Yes,
your situation?
yes. One of the things we told them is you must have your on. I need to see your lovely faces. But we also want to make sure that they are engaged. If
Yeah.
the cameras are off, we really don't know what they're doing if they're even listening. But with the cameras on, they are engaged. We do the videos, we do classwork. We use the Google platform so that uploading of work is pretty easy because everything goes basically to your Google Drive.
Yeah.
But it has been quite successful knowing that we were thrown into it over a weekend, but it has been quite successful.
Yeah. Fiona, what about you? Because you are a bit different. You are involved in homeschooling. How does that work? And did you experience any significant change?
Right. So, good morning, everyone. Well, homeschooling really means that parents educate their children within the context of their home. And so, in terms of how the entire situation would have impacted homeschooling, there would have been some changes. So, even though parents who are homeschooling, have the ability to continue working with their children at home, you would have found that some of the activities that we would have done, some of the going outs, the outings, the sort of interactive outside type learning would have been impacted by this.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I guess different parents would have different circumstances as well. So, in my own family, we would have had some circumstances that emerged with the lockdown that would have also impacted the way that we would have homeschooled from before. So, I think, yes, this entire situation with COVID-19 would have affected homeschooling families according to their method and approach to homeschooling. Because homeschooling is not just being at home. You will find many parents, because of the flexibility, would take the opportunity to include into their homeschooling routine various types of activities that take place outside of the home, whether it be, going to the library on a regular basis, going on outings on a regular basis, doing nature walks or hikes. So my own homeschool group, we have a homeschool group that meets every Friday.
Yes.
And there are a few groups similar to that. You found that we could no longer do our group meetings, right?
Yeah.
This past week here, we had to have our second Zoom meeting with the parents and the children. So we're looking at activities that we can do using Zoom as our platform.
All right. So, guys, I'm going to ask you to stay on the line because we have a hard stop at 7 o'clock at the top of the hour for the news, but I'll come back immediately after the news first to just continue. I want to talk about what the future looks like now that we've had this transition into online. If you think that this will continue after the pandemic, so stay on the line and we'll be back after this talking to educators as to how the COVID-19 has impacted them in the classroom. That and more after this. Continuing now with our interview with regard to educators and how they are coping with COVID. Continuing on the line, we have Michael Sherry, Assistant Professor, the Academy for Performing Arts at UTT, Fiona Rajkumar, Educator and Homeschooler, as well as Deborah De La Rosa, Teacher at Standard 4 Bishop's Anstey Junior School. Good morning. We continue. And what I wanted you guys to weigh in on is what you think the future looks like now. Do you think we will revert to face-to-face only teaching, a mixture, or perhaps we'll see more of online? What are you thinking? Michael?
Well, yeah, well, I think, I mean, ideally we'd like to see more of a blending of the two styles, that traditional style and this new online environment, this new digital environment. I mean, the science, we have to be guided by the science of it, and the medical science of it says that or the public health science of it says that um, gatherings, gatherings are where this virus, feeds on, where it replicates and so on. So
Mm-hmm.
I think, I mean, I personally think until we get a vaccine materializes and
Yeah.
is administered, um, this is the new world that we're gonna have to adjust to. I
Yeah.
mean, and I'm seeing it as well personally in my particular field, theater and cultural activities and so on.
Yeah. Has
You
it been
know,
challenging
um,
for you, given that it's theater? Has it been personally challenging for you to make that transition?
yeah, because theater by its very nature is an art form that's collaborative. It's not a solitary journey like like writing or painting or any kind of visual arts. Um, drama, dance, music requires that collaborative experience. So I think what you're gonna find, especially in my field, um, like uh, doing away of company productions of ensemble productions and more solo work, probably
Yeah.
more solo
Yeah.
pieces,
Yeah.
more original solo pieces coming about, which is the thrust that we've kind of gone with regard to the assessment,
Mm-hmm.
of the students.
Yeah.
So we don't have a company production this semester. We kind of had to have, like, pretty much everyone doing solo work, monologues. Even the
Mm-hmm.
instruction is kind of like more one-on-one coaching. um Even
Yeah.
though we do have um
Yeah.
class time where there's multiple students
Yeah.
happening.
Let me jump in,
um
and Michael, let me bring in Deborah into the
sure,
conversation,
sure.
because you spoke about assessment, and I know that Bishops was up and ready in 2 days, you said. But
Yes.
how do you treat with assessment, and do you think that post COVID, post the pandemic, that this will continue even more than we're seeing now?
Well, to begin with, I believe that there must be some blended learning. For us now, after the children have been exposed to this online form of education, to just switch again on them is not really the best approach.
Yes.
So I believe there will be some blended learning, and we have seen it work positively for some of our students, where they are actually performing at a much higher level with engagement, because we are now operating in a realm that they are comfortable with. So
Right.
I think it's going to be a bit blended.
Mm-hmm.
With assessments, we have used the tools that we have, and we are using as I said, the Google platform,
Mm-hmm.
where we ensure that when we give coursework where the
Mm-hmm.
children will upload. I
Yes.
gave my students science experiments to do over the vacation, and they had to record themselves performing the science experiment, upload it, and I would look at it and grade it.
Okay.
In addition to that, using the Google platform like Google Slides, Google Forms, I can have the children actually do a summative test where I am watching them do the test, so that I know that they are not running into a book or running to get help or whatnot. So it can be assessed in that kind of way.
Yeah.
It also lends itself to teachers being quite innovative in their forms of assessment.
Right.
So it isn't only a sit down and write out something for a test. We can do so many other things. Children can upload videos of themselves, they can write things, they can, as Michael said, do a monologue on something.
Mm-hmm.
We have
Mm-hmm.
them also where we are switching the roles. So tomorrow or next week, I would like you to give me a 2-minute talk on, and we give them a particular topic.
Yeah.
Now, many people think that this is beyond the primary school child, but you'd be amazed when you give them the opportunity, they will rise to the occasion.
Well, as you
So
said,
you
this is
now
their
literally,
world. As you said,
yeah,
this is their
and
world. And Fiona,
yes.
finally, what's the future of homeschooling from where you sit?
I think that future of homeschooling is very secure, um, because homeschooling is not done in a traditional type classroom. And so you would find that parents would use technology in meaningful ways in their classrooms, okay, to assist learning, teaching and learning. And so in terms of, I think in terms of education overall,
Yeah.
the inclusion of more technology
Yes.
will be a positive thing. Of course, I mean, there's a lot of debate because I also lecture as well. And so for a little while now, I'm at the University of the Southern Caribbean.
Yes.
We have been using blended learning and online learning. So actually this semester, all of my classes have been fully online. So I have been trained to teach fully online for a little while
Yes.
now. And so at primary, secondary, and tertiary, I think it's a positive move for us to be able to develop online learning. But of course, the infrastructure has to be there. I read a comment about, when you're grading online learning, you're grading privilege. And to some extent, because everyone will not have access in the same way,
Yes.
particularly as this has been a surprise,
Yeah.
sprung on us. You will find that there are students who will not be able to benefit from online learning, right?
That's very true.
Yet. And so it is, I think it is a platform that gives us the impetus to sort of allow for that leveling of education to ensure that the vast majority of our students are able to benefit from online learning going into the future. And I want to agree with Deborah. Where homeschooling is concerned, much of what Deborah is saying is easily integrated into homeschooling. It is not, because homeschooling, it's family education. So you find that children are much more interactive with their teachers who are also their parents. So the experimenting, the flexible types of assessments, that is an integral part of how parents homeschool. And so the COVID-19 situation has, it may be interesting, but it probably, to some extent, because I mean, what many are doing now, education at home, is not really homeschooling, because homeschooling also involves different kinds of philosophies and approaches.
Yeah.
But I guess having learning done at home gives people a little bit of an inkling to the potential that homeschooling has.
Yeah.
To give children a particular kind of scope of collaborative learning, for independent learning, self-directed learning, for growth and responsibility and the ability to take charge of their learning.
Right.
So
but we're going to be continuing the conversation specifically with you and Bernadette Solomon at a later date with regard to homeschooling, so we get even more into it. But I have to stick a pin in it right now, guys, because we are going to wrap up this conversation with you, Fiona, Rajkumar, Michael, Sherry, and Deborah De La Rosa. Thank you so much for joining us and giving us an update as to where you sit as lecturers with this COVID-19 situation and how you guys are coping. Thank you so much. Brought to you by National Gas Company, Trinidad and Tobago Limited.
Coping with COVID-19, brought to you by NGC, at the forefront of energy.